Welcome back. It's a hot topic on this July 4th as we celebrate the country's birthday, just less than a week after the Supreme Court upheld one of the most controversial laws in our history. Yesterday, I spoke with attorney Jay Davis about the individual mandate and how the decision affects President Obama as he runs for re-election. Take a look. All right, Thursday's ruling was historic. The individual mandate, which requires people to buy health insurance and doesn't leave that up to the states, that's caused a lot of controversy. Now, what does that mean for people's taxes and for their paychecks?
Well, what the Supreme Court decided was this penalty, what Obama administration wanted to call a penalty, was not a penalty but a tax. As a penalty, it required people to be criminalized if they didn't buy health insurance. And the Supreme Court said, no, you cannot do that. It's not a crime, but you can tax it. And so now it's a tax.
Now, it's, a lot of people call it a penalty, call it a tax. You just explained the difference between the two. But if it is a tax, President Obama's 2008 campaign really focused on not taxing the middle class. And so that has been a point of controversy. But here we have what could be considered by some as a tax. Now, explain how that fares for him in his re-election efforts.
Right now we've got more than 50% of the population who do not pay taxes. So if he appeals to those and they're not obligated to pay taxes, then he'll do fine. However, it's the people who are working, it's the single individuals who are working who are now going to be mandated to get health care, some type of policy, or pay an extra tax.
Now, the Affordable Care Act was upheld under the tax code, which means Congress does have the right and the ability to raise taxes. Now, does that affect people's immediate paychecks, or will they see that at the end of the year when they file their taxes?
That tax is going to not start until 2014. Okay. And they will see it at the end of the year right now the implementation is a little questionable, but they will see it when they file their taxes. When they file their taxes and explain whether or not they do have the health care and know whether or not they pay that penalty tax, which is going to be classified heavily as a tax. They'll do that at the end of the year when they calculate their taxes. It could be that the IRS changes their forms and that more is withheld during the year, but that's not likely.
Now, the Supreme Court is the highest court in land, and they have spoken, but do you feel personally that this ruling was constitutional, that the Constitution is being upheld by upholding the Affordable Care Act?
Well, this is all held out of Article 1, Section 8, and people can read what it says. It says Congress has the power to control commerce, that's business. And the Obama administration wanted that power by controlling business among the states, between states, going from one state to another. However, this doesn't do that. This forces somebody into commerce, not regulating commerce. So later in that same section is the power to tax. That power is clearly given Congress, and they do have that power, so that portion is constitutional. Whether or not it's fairly applied, now that you're having a tax, for it to be constitutional and challenged, it has to be first paid. So people cannot do that until after 2014 when they're charged that tax. And then they can go and argue whether or not it was fairly applied, whether or not it should have applied to them.
All right, Jay Davis, thank you so much for being here. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
And we want to answer your legal questions. If you've got something you want to know, send it to us, and attorney Jay Davis will answer you on It's the Law. And you can just email your question to itsthelaw@41nbc.com.